Let's talk about society and politics. Presented by Smith Co.
Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About Politics and Society. And today we're going to be talking about something very, very different. Well, no, actually it's not that different, but let's head in. So if you're in a country and basically you've got someone who is in power, whether that be, a king, a president, a prime minister, or whatever name you give them, if they're like the head, if this is a democracy in government, if they're the head of the government, so they're not officially a dictator, but they are basically, how I explain this is this: they have near to ultimate power. This doesn't mean directly, it doesn't mean they're open, front, honest, saying they've got ultimate power. It may mean that they have absolute control of their party, and their party has control of that has absolute power. One example of this would be like, if you disagree with it in any way, you are fired, and the leader can recall any sort of election. So they can be just like, I just fired all the people who disagreed with me. So, and this is the sort of thing you're in level with. It's like, okay, so that's the kind of thing. If that's the position you're in, what exactly you have there? Because it's that situation which you're like, okay, so how exactly is the dictatorship from there? Okay, first of all, you should never give any individual really that much power, because yes, they may be good, but there's two things. First of all, they may appear to be good, but they may not be good. And second to that, the problem with giving people power is that what happens when they're gone? Because let's say I am a fantastic leader, I'm incredible, and I introduce some amazing policies, and the country prospers, everyone is able to live a perfect life, because education is amazing, and anyone who needs help gets assistance from the government, and anyone who wants a dream job or anything is given that sort of thing, and there's mental health there's access to the therapy when you need it, and there's no cost problems, anything like that. Anything you need is given to you, as long as if you can't afford it, and that sort of thing. That may sound like a wonderful little world, and the problem is, number one, there could be more things coming with that, and the next thing is that what happens if a leader passes away, just generally to, not necessarily due to any sort of shenanigans, just generally to just age, or if they retire, because obviously you may not want to continue having a stressful job, or even just a job, when you have access, like obviously you don't want to be, you want to be able to live life to its fullest, but if you have a pension, if you have sort of access to money, then you may not want to continue working once you reach a certain age, because it's problems begin to happen, and then that causes discomfort, and this because doesn't mean you don't, some people wouldn't want to, but some people wouldn't, is what I'm saying. Anyway, but the point is that what happens then is, what if you've had an amazing leader, what happens when you get this bad one? Because suddenly you're looking at very strange circumstance, because suddenly it's not anymore are you looking at just, this leader was amazing. You're looking at this new leader who's not. And maybe they're trying to imitate them, or maybe they're outright just admitting that they're actually nothing like them, and that they're just not really that good. And the problem with that is that soon you find, maybe you won't find, but soon problems may begin to appear, because you can't just give a position of power to someone, and then that person retires, give somebody else the position of power, if your reason for giving the position of power was because they were a good leader. Because what about this one? Is this one a good leader? Because they may not be. And that is, of course, an issue. Now, some people would point out that there are also other countries where you have sort of things whereby, a person is, elected, but they can be elected for basically an endless amount of time. And that, in my opinion, is a bad thing. Because it's all well and good having an amazing leader, but if you have them for that length of time, we're not necessarily they're there for life, but that they get elected there is a really problematic situation. Because you do not want to give someone the kind of power you have there. you've seen this, you can see this around the world. The amount of problems that happen because of this, they are enormous. But the main problem is this: a lot of the time, if you're a leader, you don't really want to make things too problematic. So oftentimes things are slow, there's oftentimes a lot of propaganda and slow psychological changing over time. And this can cause immense damage. There is, division between two religions, there's division between, perceived races, there's a division between cultures, there's kind of like a over nationalism, there's all these sorts of things. And then there comes this sort of problem when you start to just get groups, and this is what I don't understand, when you start to get groups, when you start having groups within your own society. Within the society, you are actually saying to someone, yes, you're in our society, we accept that, but you're going to be a second-class citizen. Because in that case, it becomes a little problematic, because it's not so much that you're refusing to give someone the right to be someone who, you're giving rules to someone just at a general pace. So the problem is that suddenly you start seeing that this sort of thing, for example, if you look at, there are so many countries in this place. If you look at Ireland, would you think that Ireland was a very, a very dictatorship-ized place? Well, if you technically go back far enough, yes. Eamon de Valera, he was the Taoiseach of Northern Ireland, of Ireland, for many, many, many years. I think, it's almost 20 years. If you look at the stats, he was from 1937 to 1948, 1951 to 1954, and 1957 to 1959. That was Taoiseach. That was leader of the government, and that was basically, head power. And that, that's problematic in itself. But further on, he then was president, which is just head of state, from 1959 to 1973. Now, obviously, if he was a very good person, that's problematic. That's not a system you want to be there, but that might be okay in that circumstance. But the problem is, he wasn't really. We'll be talking about that in the next video. But basically, if you look at Eamon de Valera's kind of a look at what he did at that time, it's pretty bad. It's it really, really is. Because when you look at the 1916 Rising, for example, in Ireland, you can see this, where it's like, well, hold on a second, this is nothing. The 1916 Rising Proclamation, which is the declaration by the rebels, that they were saying, no, we are a sovereign state, we want to be a sovereign state, here you go, England, we are saying this to you, which is signed by all of them, the leaders. That is something which is just almost completely disregarded by Eamon de Valera, and he just writes a completely different sort of thing. And if you look at this, it's like, well, sure, you might have wanted freedom from the British, but I would say, you might think, if you actually have your own opinion on this, you might think, oh, well, no, that's nonsense, let's go. But it's like, well, no, because if you look at it, I would say, yeah, Eamon de Valera does appear to be a dictator. In a way, not obviously fully, because technically they could have voted him out, but the fact is, you don't want to allow someone to serve that length of time. Because it's not just, I understand why dictator seems like a very thing, but I would say maybe not dictator, but also he would definitely be, a problematic leader, because you never want a leader to be in power for that long. Sorry, you never want a leader to be in that power for that long. That's over 10 years in power. That is not something you want to have. 10 years is a lot of time, and over the course of time, if you actually look at when he began, obviously he did take breaks. So if you look how he began, then you see it's like, well, you know, because if you ignore the breaks, that is like that is over 20 years of extension of their whole time. So that is a problem, in my opinion. And that is a problem that, you know, you might argue needs to be considered. And that's what we'll be talking about in the next video. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and watch other videos, because it helps out. It really does. Yeah. Hopefully one day we'll be able to reach that, you know, advertising goal where you're able to go, yay, I make enough money and you should possibly to be self-sufficient in a kind of a risky sort of way, where it's like, oh well, this video did badly, so, you know, that's a week's wages gone. But, you know, hopefully we'll be able to reach that stage where we'll be able to make enough money that we'll be able to, you know, do this full time. But, you know, hopefully we'll see you later. If you want to come back next time, that'd be great. Yeah, so we'll see you then.